All right, so this next one is a docuseries. It's called Time, the Kalief Browder Story.
We have a couple of the executive producers with us today. Nick Sandow and Julia Willoughby Nason are with us. And the director of the documentary series is also here, Jenner First. And this, I read a little bit about this story just recently, probably in some of the reading I was doing to get ready for these interviews about Kalief Browder. This is really it's a horrible story about this kid, and he paid dearly for what happened to him. And I guess, Jenner, you're nodding, and so tell us about what happened to Kalief Browder.
Well, for those who do not know Kalief's story, he was a 16-year-old teenager walking home from a party in the Bronx. He was stopped for allegedly stealing a backpack. He insisted that he was innocent. He was told that it would be okay, that he was just going to the precinct. And that began this really insane odyssey, which lasted 3 years for him. And he was sent to Rikers Island because his family could not come up with bail. Soon after that, he was remanded by the Department of Probation. He had a pre-existing charge. And essentially, Kalief's case becomes this ultimate example of how our criminal justice system does not work for millions and millions of Americans, and how poverty, race, socioeconomic conditions really do have an effect on people when it comes to justice. And Kalief never was able to stand trial. He insisted his innocence, and he was trapped in Rikers Island.
Never formally charged, was he?
Never formally charged. He was charged but never convicted, and he never stood trial, and the charges were dropped after 3 years, 2 of which in solitary confinement. So Americans don't really understand that there are millions of people awaiting trial who are poor and who can be subjected to conditions which are similar to Guantanamo Bay, solitary confinement.
It's the Kalief Browder story. We have a couple of the producers with us, Nick Sandow and Julia Willoughby Nason. Describe how you come on to a project like this and why you take it on, and how it happens.
Yeah, I read a New Yorker article about Kalief, so I was aware of it, and I've been working on a TV show for 3-4 years, playing a warden who really could not do much.
I know who you are. I recognize you. Orange is the New Black.
You're part of the problem.
When you started going like this, I went, oh, it's that numbnut warden.
Exactly. So I've been stuck playing that numbnut for 4 years in a wonderful show, and I've had a great time doing it. But there's something about doing that for 4 years and feeling like, wow, I'm not, I'm failing.
Orange is the New Black.
Yes, that's the show. Yeah. And when I heard of Kalief's death, I was devastated, and his passing really moved me. And I cold called his lawyer, Paul Prestier, and I said, Paul, is there anything I can do for for the family?
You didn't even know the lawyer.
Didn't know him. I cold called him, and I of course I was like, I do this show, and to make some contact. And I said, if the family needs anything, if there's anything I can do, and I didn't, that was it. And he probably said, who is that guy? Why did he go away?
What guy, the numbnuts warden.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. And it kind of stewed, and I said, well, what can we do? And I thought, well, we can make a doc. And the first people I thought of to bring it to was Jenna and Julia at the Cinemart, and I sat down with them, and
can I ask?
That was it. It just blew up from there, and Jenna just took it and ran with it, and knew the scope of it more than I did, and just kept going with it.
Can I ask a further back question? Because when you say, when I heard that Kalief died, Was it a big story at the time? Because I'm thinking things like this get lost. This happens all the time, and these kids get lost, and we don't hear those stories. So why did we hear this story?
Well, in New York, it was a huge story because for several years, there's been a lot of reporting about the abuses at Rikers Island, about conditions that were really, horrible there. And it had been reported on, and Kalief had become kind of a known story in New York, and before he passed away. And so when he died, he immediately entered into this bigger national conversation about Black Lives Matter and about, how could this happen, and that the system had, despite the fact that he had committed suicide, that the system had killed him, had destroyed him.
Julia, how do you now? Nick knows you and calls you. How do you get involved? Why do you get involved? How does that happen?
I run the Cinemart with Jenner. He's my husband, and Nick is a close friend and collaborator, and so that's how we're involved.
I gotcha.
Julie and I have had a company for about 5 years now. We produce and direct, and are filmmakers together. So we're a mom and pop business.
Or husband and wife, I guess.
Husband and wife.
Do you have children?
Not yet.
Okay, so you're not
What
a
is this
mom
show
and pop.
about?
This
You're not a
series-
mom and pop yet.
This series is our child.
There you go.
To note about like the movement of it, we went to talk with the family, with Kalief's family, and Kalief's mom, Vanita, to see if they were interested in doing this and doing this with us. And Vanita was so ready to talk and so wanting to tell Kalief's story that they were a big part of like lifting this up, and really Vanita came into her own and became a real powerful voice within the doc.
She really did, and for years she had to endure this kind of nightmare. Going to see your son. Many people don't understand what Rikers Island is, and it really is beyond just a New York thing. This is the greatest city in the world, the capital of the universe, and there's this island that no one sees, and you have to take a bus to get there. And once you get there, you're looking at conditions that are.
Had you ever been out there before?
Prior to making this documentary, no, I had never been on Rikers Island. And
We got thrown off that one time.
yeah, Nick and I got thrown off when we were trying to get some B-roll one day.
I was going to say they can't have been very welcoming to you.
Well, I
filming there.
actually do have to give them a lot of credit, because after our project hit the airwaves, and the fact that we were going to do this on such a big scale with Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein, and it was going to be in 100 million homes, they returned the phone call. I had reached out to them a year prior and said, it's really important for you guys to give a comment on what happened. And so it took about a year to get in, and when we did get in, it was clear that a lot of reforms have been made since this kid was there.
Good.
Solitary confinement has been banned for juveniles, which is a national trend. The president wrote an op-ed about banning solitary confinement in federal prisons for juveniles,
The
and
former
he cited
president.
the former president.
Why'd you have to do that?
Yeah.
Because
Why'd you have to do that? Huh?
because I believe in living in the present reality.
Right. Well, at that time, the reality was that we had a sane president, and his name was Barack Obama.
Thank you.
So, and he, invoked Kalief's name, and Kalief had really touched a lot of people, and he touched Jay-Z personally, and that was part of the genesis. Is that when the three of us were thinking, and also our other partner Mike Gasparo, who's not in the on the show right now, our other executive producer, we knew that if Jay-Z had known him personally, if Jay-Z had met him, Jay-Z had believed in what he represented, that the most organic partner to bring this to that next level, to that X variable of exposure, would be him. And so we met with him and the president of Rock Nation, Shaka Pilgrim, who had also intimately known the Browder family, had gone to the funeral when Kalief died, had taken an interest, and it skyrocketed from there. Jay-Z didn't think twice about it, and he, we got a call a couple weeks later from the Weinstein Company, and that they wanted to do this on a big scale.
it's it's nice. And again, we're talking to the people, and this people will be able to see this on Spike TV.
Yes, all over the country.
Good. Oh, good.
All over the country.
All
Massive
6
exposure.
All 6 parts. Time, the Kalief Browder Story. Be looking for it. It hasn't started yet.
No, our air date is March 1st.
Okay.
Very excited. We're going to be coming on the air Wednesdays at 10 p.m. And it'll run for 6 weeks straight from March 1st on. And we really invite people to, watch this series and open their minds to the conditions here in our country and really these threats to American liberty. It's not partisan. It's not Democrat or Republican. This is about, if you're a big fan of the Constitution, which many people on the right are, you should take a look at this. Rand Paul was on the stumping about Kalief Browder his whole campaign. This is not a partisan issue.
So
this is an American human issue.
Well, it is the to be perfectly trite about it, and justice for all is something that we say, and it's not true.
No, it is not.
It is not true, and so we can talk about, well, it'll be great if we can do some things for Rikers Island, and we can do. But how do we ever
It's not just
find
there.
our way?
It's not just there.
How do we find our way into really living that saying and justice for all?
I think that you bring up an amazing point. I think that statistics, the evening news, these things do not allow. They inform us. They allow us to see this in a very kind of straightforward way. But it's these human stories, like the story of Kalief Browder, like the story of his family, the story of the people that went through similar things, that can allow us to understand the human consequence of this injustice. And it isn't justice for all. And it is not that's not our country right now. And we have to become a different country that recognizes that this is a problem. And I think it threatens every single piece of this democracy that things like this can happen.
And I think if we, we shine the light on some of these things. I think it's how change happens, is if things are exposed and people are able to understand them. I mean, there are things about the criminal justice system. I just had no idea how it worked. I mean, really, and I've been working in and around this subject for quite a while, and I mean, my eyes were open to things. It's like, that's how it works. So I think just people becoming aware of how it works and how it
doesn't,
and how it doesn't. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for being with us. By the way, your warden character on Orange is the New Black, I'm calling him a numbnuts. I have to say, I think often his heart is in the right place.
He does mean
He really does try.
Yeah.
That's because Nick is playing.
That's right.
But you're pretty ineffectual.
He's ineffectual, but his heart is in the right place.
Well, he's got another season to prove himself. So.
Oh God! Wait, just wait.
Look for it in March on Spike TV. It's Time, the Kalief Browder Story.
And there's still time to see it here.
Yeah, Wednesday we're going to be at the Mark Theater at 5 o'clock, and we invite everybody to come and see it. There's still tickets available for the day of. It's going to be a great event. Jay-Z is going to be there, and we invite all the local folks here and people here at the festival to come see it.
You're showing the first 2 parts.
We're going to be showing the first 2 parts.
Thank you, Jenner First, Julia Willoughby, Nason, and Nick Sandow. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Hey,
for
thanks,
having
guys.
us.